Something is stealing your years, and it isn't age. Do you remember when a single summer felt like a lifetime? When the sun refused to set and the world was vast? Now you blink and a year's gone. You look up from your phone and somehow it's December again, another birthday, another missed moment. And if you're honest, you don't remember last Tuesday at all. You aren't losing your memory. You're living in a watch that has forgotten how to tick slowly. Welcome. I am a watchmaker. I have spent my life with time. Not the time on calendars, but the time you feel. The subjective time that stretches and contracts like a spring. The nostalgia that makes a decade feel like yesterday, and yesterday feel like a dream you can barely remember. This is my attic, and if you're willing, I want to show you why your life feels like it's accelerating, why the years vanish, and how to wind the watch of your days back to a pace worth living. The problem isn't time. It never was. The problem is mindfulness, or rather, the lack of it. You didn't build this watch alone. It was assembled slowly, by culture, by speed, by expectation, and now it's running too fast to feel. When you were 5 years old, a single afternoon could contain galaxies. You remember this, don't you? The way the summer vacation stretched before you like an ocean with no shore. The endless afternoons, the way Christmas took an eternity to arrive, and when it did, the day itself was a cathedral you walked through slowly. Why did time move so slowly then? Because every moment was new. Your brain was a watchmaker, assembling each second by hand. Every gear turned deliberately. Every tick was felt. Your mind is not a camera. It is a careful archivist in a dim attic. It keeps only the moments that tremble, the ones that smell different, sound different, feel different in your hands. Everything else, it sweeps quietly into the dark. And when you were a child, everything was new. The first time you tasted strawberries, the first time you heard thunder, the first day of school with its smell of new crayons and aged paper, the click of your father's briefcase, the weight of your grandmother's hand. Close your eyes for a second. Try to remember the smell of your first classroom, the exact color of the walls, the sound of chairs scraping the floor. That's what a saved moment feels like. Your brain recorded these moments in exquisite detail because they mattered, because they were firsts, and because it recorded them, they lasted. Not in clock time, in the only time that matters, the time you remember, the time you felt. This is why childhood summers felt infinite, not because they were longer, but because you were awake for every moment of them. You were living in a watch that ticked with intention. And then, something changed, and the strangest part, the same thing that made childhood feel endless is still inside you. What if the problem isn't that life is short, but that you stopped noticing it? And then you grew up, and the watchmaker of your mind learned to be efficient. Somewhere along the way, the stained glass inside you was replaced, not with malice, with fluorescent efficiency. The cathedral of your childhood became an office corridor of identical doors, and your days began to echo instead of sing. The blueprint your childhood drew was slowly rewritten. The patterns beneath your awareness shifted from wonder to automation. You learned your route to work. Your brain stopped recording it. You mastered your job. Your brain stopped saving those hours. You fell into routines, the same breakfast, the same conversations, the same grocery store on the same day of the week. Repetition turns stained glass into fogged windows. And one day, you look through them and realize you can't see the year anymore. So the days vanished, not because they didn't happen. They happened. You lived them. But your brain deleted them almost as soon as they occurred. When was the last day you remember clearly? This is how a life becomes efficient and quietly forgettable. Where did it go? The truth? It never existed. Not in the way that matters. You were there. Your body moved through space. But you were living in a watch that ticked so quietly you couldn't hear it anymore. You're living, but you're not collecting the days. And when you look back, all you see is blur. If you had to describe last month, what would you say? That second was just as long as the one when you were 5. The clock didn't change. You did. But there are moments when the watch breaks. When time doesn't vanish, it detonates. Trauma is the watchmaker smashing every gear at once, forcing you to feel every millisecond. You know this if you've ever been in a car accident. That impossible slowing of time, the way a second of impact stretches into something that feels like minutes. Your brain, in emergency, records everything, every sensory detail. The smell of burning rubber, the sound of shattering glass, the weight of your body against the seatbelt. This is why traumatic memories feel different. They don't fade like normal memories. They're too dense, too detailed. Your brain saved every frame. And later, when you remember them, they feel like they happened in a different life, to a different person, in a time that existed outside of time. But it's not just trauma. Intense love does this too. The first kiss that seemed to last forever. The conversation that made the restaurant disappear. The night you stayed up talking until sunrise, and somehow it felt like both 5 minutes and 5 years. These are the moments your brain refused to let slip away. Why? Because they were important. Because novelty isn't just about new, it's about meaning, about presence, about being so fully alive in a moment that your brain has no choice but to carve it into stone. These are the gears that still tick when everything else has stopped. When was the last time a moment felt heavy enough to remember? But here's the uncomfortable truth. If nothing changes, next year will feel even shorter. Look at your last 7 days. Not the calendar, your memory. How many of them still exist? So how do we slow it down? How do we make a year feel like a year again? How do we stop waking up in December wondering where the time went? The answer is deceptively simple. You feed your brain what it's starving for: newness, attention, awe. And now, you become the watchmaker. Don't rebuild your whole life. Just loosen one gear. Take a road your feet have never argued with before. Sit in a cafe where no one knows your name. Taste something you cannot pronounce. Confuse your routine. That confusion is where time begins to slow again. Do something where you're a beginner again, where you have to think, where you have to pay attention. Because attention is the winding key of the watch. Practice awe. Studies show that experiences of awe, standing before something vast, beautiful, or incomprehensible, literally expand our sense of time. A sunset watched with full attention feels longer than an hour scrolled on a phone. Find the cathedral moments, the ones that make you small, the ones that remind you you're alive. Document your days. Not for Instagram, for yourself. Write 3 sentences before bed about what you noticed, what you felt, what was different about today. Because when you tell your brain this matters, it listens. You cannot stop time from passing. The clock will tick whether you're paying attention or not. But you can decide which ticks you collect, which moments you save, which days you allow to matter.
Here is what I know after a lifetime of studying time. You have less of it than you think, and more than you fear. The years will pass, they always do, but how they pass, whether they're a blur or a masterpiece, is entirely up to you. You don't need a different life, you need a different attention. You don't need more time, you need to feel the time you have. The clocks were never broken, you were just living too fast to hear them. The time you have left is a blank canvas, but the paint is already in your hands. All you have to do is slow down enough to make each stroke deliberate, to make each moment yours. Slow down. The next second is already arriving. No one else will paint this for you. This is your time. Wind it carefully. Thank you for spending these moments with me, for slowing down enough to let this matter. If this changed something for you, even slightly, I'd love to know. What is one thing you'll do differently this week to slow your watch? One new route, one conversation, one moment of true attention. Leave it in the comments, not for me, for you, to make it real. The attic is always open. The tools are always here. And remember, time doesn't slip away. We do.